Hey guys, and welcome to another PixLab Tutorial Tuesdays. Okay, so this week I'm breaking away from our character modeling series, and the reason for that is I feel like I've been slacking off on the Unity tutorials a little bit. So I've come back this week with a very short yet very effective tutorial for you guys, which will be useful for you if you are into the day-night cycle tutorial that I did a while ago. If you haven't checked that out, you should definitely check that out now by clicking the link on the screen right now or checking out the link in the description below. Now, I'm going to show you guys what I'm going to be making today, but before I do, I'm just going to add a... well, actually I'm not even... let me just show you what we've made today. I'm going to set up the moon here or our directional light to a very high speed. I'm going to make it 0.5 minutes or half a minute in a day. It'll be extremely quick, but you guys will get a very good idea of what we're making. Sun rises and we have a very yellow light, which is nice. Very nice lighting systems they brought into Unity now with Unity 5. And then as the sun sets, we have the moon rising in the distance. Now that moon texture that we've created there, very simple to make. I'm not going to be covering how to make it, but it is very simple to do in Photoshop if you guys have experience in Photoshop. If you don't, please leave comments below and I will do some Photoshop tutorials for you guys. Not a problem at all for me to do those for you, and I'm sure you guys will catch on very quickly with that as well. So I'm going to just jump right into it. First things first, I'm just going to open up our starting scene here. We've got the start day. Yes, I'll save that scene. Oh wow, I remember what I did there. Let's just open the finished one, and I'm just going to go right ahead and delete the directional light and the moon, and I'll leave the scene setup as is. I've just set up a very basic plane, as you can see, with some cubes on top of it. That's just to add something to the scene so you guys get an effect of the lighting system and the lighting that's going on in the background. Now, the next thing I'm gonna just delete the scripts and the textures, which I've done already, but it doesn't really matter too much. What I'm going to show you guys first is how to set up the texture. So our texture on here, in your import settings here on the inspector panel, has to be a texture, and you import the alpha as a transparency layer. So that'll just create the transparency layer. If I take that off, you guys will see what it used to look like. Very harsh, very weird looking little texture. If you say alpha is in transparency channel, then suddenly it portrays the way it should be. Now this asset, this texture if you will, I found the actual texture on cgtextures.com, so I'm giving credit to those guys. They produce a lot of very cool textures. They need a little bit of work before you can use them, but it is a good reference source for you guys. You should definitely register that site and you'll get a whole bunch of textures that you can use. Now I've done some editing to this texture, and I'm going to be posting this texture to my blog, and you guys can download the texture with the transparency already set up and everything set up the way this is. It's a very nice and sharp looking texture. Next thing you're going to want to do, or first thing you're going to do, if this is your scene with the day-night tutorial, from the day-night tutorial as it was, if you just check that out, right now all we have is the sun rising and the sun setting. There's no moon in the background. So what we need to do first is we're going to create another light. So it's game object, light, directional light. Then what I want you to do is make it a child of the original directional light, which is your sun. Then we're going to set up the light first. So the intensity needs to be 0.1, which is very light, and we're going to set it up to have soft shadows. And then we're going to set our color of the light to a very light bluish color. That will give us actually a very dark blue color. There we go. That'll give us that moon color that we want, which is going to be very cool. Then we're going to zero out the position and the rotation on that light. And then on the x-axis, I want you to change the rotation to 180 degrees. If we click on the top level directional light, you'll notice two lights facing exactly opposite from each other. That'll be your daytime light and your nighttime light. Now the transition might seem a little harsh, but we can work that out later. This is a very basic tutorial. I'm not going to be covering any of that right now. Next thing we're going to want to do We're going to create a 3D object, and it's going to be a plane. I'm going to rename that plane immediately to moon. I'm going to make that a child of the sun as well. So let me just rename that light to sun. Oops. So sunlight. The other directional light to moonlight. And never mind these cubes and the other plane and whatnot in the scene. That is again just for your reference. So our plane that we've now added to this scene, first thing we're going to want to do is you're going to want to open the mesh filter here, or the mesh renderer rather, and you're going to want to say receive shadows off, and then the next thing is we want to go cast shadows off. So that way it'll just be a plane, no shadows, nothing. Next thing we're going to want to do is create a material. So create a material and call it moon, and then we're going to just drag the texture into the albedo channel of that texture. You want to go rendering mode on the standard shader and just select cutout. Please remember that I am using Unity 5 that has this very, very good new standard shader which allows you to do all of these crazy shading things from one central shading point. So it's really, really useful. Now I found the best setting here is about 0.65 thereabouts. Then the next thing you want to do is drag that same moon texture. Because it's already black and white, you drag that same texture into the emission tab. Now in order to see our emission actually take effect, we're going to drag our moon texture onto our moon plane. Now we can increase the intensity a little bit or decrease it depending on how bright you want your moon. I actually found that 1 was already a very good value for us. Now the next thing you're going to want to do is click on your moon and then zero out the position so that it is exactly center of our light setup. Then you want to center out your rotation as well, and then the next thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to set our x-axis to -90, so it's facing away from the camera, so towards the sun, so that it will be opposite of the sun. Now that will not be visible from your camera's view at the moment. However, if your camera started on the other side, you would probably want to hide that until the startup functions have been executed. Now let's move on to the next part. First we want to now just create a C# script. So we right click in our project view here and we create a C# script. We're going to call this moon control. Very, very simple little script. I'm going to close my scripting panel there and open up the script. Great stuff. Now the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to set up. So we removed the update function because we're just going to be using the start function. Now we want to create a public float, and we're going to call this distance equals, I worked this out already, it's going to be 1,000 meters away. So 1,000.f, and then a public float scale equals 15.f. That will be the size of the moon at 1,000 meters away. Okay. Now the first thing you want to do in the start function here is say transform, so that's the transform that this script is attached to, dot local position equals a new vector 3. Okay, then for our x value it's going to be transform dot local position dot x. For our y, in our vector 3, our y value is going to be transform.localPosition y, and for our z value it's going to just be distance. So that's pretty simple. That's just how far you want it to be rendered out. Then our next line, very simple one as well, is transform dot local scale equals a new vector 3, and then you just feed it scale. Okay, so that'll control the position and the scaling. Now you could probably have done this by hand without using any scripting, but this makes it very simple for changing the values from one scene to the next. One scene could have the moon closer, one day could have the scene closer than the next, and you could create an update function for this. We're not going to be doing that because we can just call this at startup, and it's very, very simple. So what we're going to do now is just drag our moon control onto our moon. So our moon plane, which is right there. And then one more thing, we have our moon distance set to 1,000, so 1,000 meters away. So on our camera we need to change our clipping. Now I've already done this. Our near clipping is 0.3, which is standard, but usually your far clipping is exactly 1,000. Now we're going to change our far clipping to 1,100. That'll put the moon in range of the clipping before the camera starts clipping, so that the moon doesn't cut halfway through the sky. It happened to me when I was doing this tutorial the first time around, and it is a bit of a hassle when you're working with the moon and suddenly it disappears halfway through the sky. So that's basically it. We've now set up our little scene here. I'm just going to drag all of these into this plane, and then that'll just organize it a little bit. Let's call this graphics. Okay, so now we have it. That was it. I'm going to run through it really quickly with you guys one more time because I know this tutorial was very, very quick. I was going to be covering a whole bunch of Photoshop things as well. I decided against it because really there's no need for that. I'm going to give you guys the texture. Again, if you guys want to see some Photoshop tutorials on how to do texturing, how to work out the textures and all of that, please do comment below and I will get on that. If you guys haven't watched the day-night tutorial, hit the link on this video now to watch it so that you can use that file to produce this day-night cycle that we have going alright. So first things first, your main camera needs to have a far clipping of 1,100 meters, or about 100 units more than the moon distance. Then we have our sun, which is our main directional light. We've created another directional light as a child of the sunlight, which is called moonlight. It is set to have an opposite rotation on X, so 180 degrees on X. It is a color value of a dark blue with a low intensity of 0.1. It uses soft shadows, and that is literally it. Then we have our plane, which is basically just a plane with our moon texture attached. Our moon material there has an emission value of 1, which uses the texture to sort of produce the emission, and is a cutout material, and it's very, very simple. One more time through the code. The code is extremely simple. In fact, one of the easiest pieces of script I've written for a tutorial so far. It's a public float distance equals 1,000, public float scale equals 15, and then void start transform.local position equals a new vector 3 at transform local position x, transform local position y, and distance for the z value. Then we have transform local scale equals a new vector 3 scale, scale, scale. That'll create a uniform scale. We make sure that our moon has this script attached, which it does. We also make sure that our plane is not casting or receiving any shadows. Now, if all goes according to plan, when I hit play, the moon will hop away 1,000 meters backwards, and we should have a reasonable scene. So there goes the sun, and it's up, and you'll see very harsh light, very harsh shadows, and you'll notice that as it begins to set, the moon will just break through the horizon and the background, and a very blue tinted light will sort of cover the scene here, as you can see. Now again, that was a very, very short, very simple tutorial, I know, but I think a very effective one at that. I'm pretty sure that you could probably do a more advanced version of this. I'm leaving that open to you guys for interpretation. You guys need to remember that I do these tutorials for you so that you can use the information and obviously then go even further, do even more. In fact, I'm calling you guys out. If you guys take this tutorial and do something cool with it, add it to your games or add it to your scenes, make a video of it, put it in the comments below. I'd love to go watch it and give you guys some creative criticism on how you could improve, or just give you guys just compliments on what you did. because let's face it, I'm sure that you guys could take this and probably do a lot more with it. I've done and kept it really simple. I'm just going to take this speed down a little bit because I'm using the script from the day-night cycle tutorial that I did. I'm just going to set it to 2 minutes so you guys can get a better idea, a bit slower. Again, remember that you can set the minutes in day to a real-time minute value, and it will be roughly that time for one full cycle. Now, really quickly, I want to thank you guys for your recommendations. This tutorial came out of a recommendation that I got on the day-night cycle tutorial to do more environment style tutorials. The user was specifically asking for weather systems, clouds, stars and the moon and all of that sort of things. So I'm trying to sort of branch out a little bit in the environment scale, and I'm hoping that if you guys enjoy this and you guys comment below, hit subscribe, that I'll do some more tutorials for you guys, and hopefully the next one we'll be doing is maybe the stars or maybe the clouds, and we'll be generating clouds in the air, and it'll just create a really cool environment for you guys to populate your games with. We'll also be doing some terrains and stuff. I've done a very simple little flat plane with some very simple little cubes on it. It's not very good, but nevertheless I think it's a good attempt. One more thing before I do end this video, there's one thing that I forgot to do, which is really fundamental for this to work properly, for this to look like a really good game or a really good graphic style. What you need to do is go to main camera. Okay, we need to first, I think what I'm going to do is just add so with Unity 5 we got all the effects that they used to keep hidden from us for free, which is awesome. Awesome of them to have done for us. So with Unity 5 we get the can never find it in this damn menu. We get all these fancy little image effects. So I'm just going to go through here because I for some reason know my way around this a little bit better. There we go, UI. No, it's not there. I seem to have just gone completely lost. Have I imported into this? I don't think I have. Effects. No, I have not. I'm going to just import that asset there. Package. Effects. There we go. Okay, so I haven't imported that, but you can just import it. It's free with Unity 5 now, and we're allowed to use things like depth of field and bloom and all of those things, and this makes for really cool effects. We could use dynamic fog to fog up the horizon, which will create that moon transition much smoother, but we're not going to. I'm just going to use some depth of field along with maybe some bloom and maybe one or two other things. I'm going to show you guys quickly a quick setup here. You go add component, image effects, and we're going to bloom and glow, and then we're going to go just bloom. So we just want to sort of play it, and then obviously we don't want it to play maximum view. So there we go, you got a little bit of bloom there already. Gives you a nice little bloom on the horizon, which is cool. And yeah, we'll stick with that. So I'm just going to copy that component, stop it, remove it, and then paste it as a new component. That just allows you to edit live and then use it again. Then the next thing we're going to want to do is select our image effects, camera, depth of field. We want the, well, I think I used this one actually, yeah. So we're going to use the visualize there function. We're going to say focal distance, we can set that up. We can say focal size, which is very cool. So we want to sort of just focus towards the back there. So focal distance, we can shift that. In fact, I think using this is very clever. Okay, that'll give us a little bit of blur on the back there. Change the aperture to about 13, and that's pretty much it. Then if we visualize this, Well, I think I might have my focal size a little bit. There we go. Okay, now we got focus in the main parts. Now we should get a really cool effect on the sunrise. Very cool, I really like that. You'll notice how the scene just looks completely alive and different with the bloom functions attached to it. This is stylistic, you can change this as you see fit. What I really want to show you guys, and it'll probably only make a real effect at night, is when we get to nighttime, you'll see that the moon has a certain glow about it, which is one of the things we want, but it's also sort of blurred out because we are quite far away from the moon. So let's just wait for that to sort of happen. Closing in on it now. Probably should have sped this up a little bit. So I think I'm going to actually. I'm going to say just 0.5. Whoa, I've broken it. Okay, this is 0.5, and I'm just going to shoot through it. So I do apologize for that. There we go. Sun goes up, and it's almost done. Notice there's a lot of bloom in the scene right now. It's just one of those things you can set it up or down as you see fit. But what's really cool is this, that the moon has a certain glow about it. If I pause the scene and rotate my camera up, you'll notice the moon has a very faint glow to it. The horizon has a faint glow to it. It's quite cool. And then one more thing that we're going to want to do, and that is I'm just going to rotate the sunlight down to the horizon. And I'm going to actually just fake some fog here by using the image effect, just called rendering global fog. There we go. And then on global fog, this is where it's quite interesting. We can set the density there, and there, there, there. And then if we play that, oh, that has not gone the way I thought it would. Never mind. Image effects. What was the other one that I used? Rendering and occlusion. You know what? Never mind any of that. I think the bloom and the depth of field is really brilliant. Really works quite well with the scene. Now again, if you guys enjoyed this tutorial, please hit subscribe. Please comment below. Let me know what you want to see next. Let me know what you want me to work on. And show me your own work, please. And then hit like, share, and yeah, I'm closing in on almost 100 subscribers now, and it's just been awesome. I mean, I've been doing this now, I think going on 2 months, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch my videos. I've kept this one reasonably short. I'm trying to keep them short for you guys so that you guys can watch them quickly and implement them very, very quickly. So yeah, please hit subscribe. Let me know what you want to see next, and keep on learning. Thank you.